Good morning, guys, and welcome to the video. So today I'm going to go ahead and be doing some more stuff on the truck, but I also wanted to give you guys an update since we last worked on it. So last thing you guys saw me doing was the oil pan seal and stuff like that. So today I'm going to be doing some more stuff in the upper half of the seal realm. Last time I worked on this thing, I had to redo the valley pan seal as well, and when I pulled it out, there's I gotta admit, there's some seals that got messed up when I pulled it out and didn't have time to fix it at the time. But we're gonna go back in there and go ahead and take care of that. So for a truck update, I went ahead and redid the rear main seal last weekend. I didn't film it. I'll throw in a few pictures real quick, but it was just like, it was a real pain in the butt. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I didn't want to put it on camera and then like possibly, I don't know, I really couldn't figure out a way to make a good video besides struggling and swearing. So anyway, got the rear main seal done, and believe it or not, that actually fixed my oil leak. So I don't know if it was the actual rear main or not, but I went ahead and replaced it, or if it was that surrounding gasket that goes around it. I'm pretty sure it was the surrounding gasket that went around it. But I went ahead and used a little RTV around the gasket like I did in the valley pan, just to make sure that there's no additional leakage that can happen. Did the rear main, put everything back together a couple different times because I kept getting brackets stuck. The transmission on this truck is like, it's not terrible to take out, but it's definitely not the most fun either. There's a bolt in the top dead center. It's a real pain in the butt to get to. So anyway, guys, I think I've actually fixed the oil leak on this truck once and for all, which is really awesome. So the main task right now is I have a check engine light on for 3 different things. First, for not having cats in the truck, which, okay, whatever. I'm probably going to get an emulator or something like that down the road because I really have no intentions of putting cats in this truck. And for the knock sensors. So I'm pretty sure when I took this apart last time, I broke a knock sensor somehow. I don't know if I over torqued it or if I knocked at something, doing something retarded when I was trying to put it back together or what. Or maybe the harness got messed up. So let me go ahead and show you what parts I bought. There we have the Shelby doing amazing as always. Hope you guys liked the last upload of the mods list of this car. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. But the parts I went ahead and got, so I need these 2 right here. I don't necessarily need this whole seal right here because that's new, but this whole kit is like 10 bucks and I couldn't find these separate, so I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna buy it for 10 bucks, not a big deal. I have some RTV on the new seal, or on the old one, so this will be easier. I won't have to clean it off. I can just put a new one on there, so that's not a big deal. I'm gonna go ahead and do my oil pressure sending unit because I think the one on there is original with 250,000 miles. They are known to go bad eventually. It's not a problem, however, I don't want to go back into this intake anytime soon. So that's why I'm trying to knock out everything. I have a fuel filter that I'm going to go ahead and put on a little bit later. That's not a big deal, but it's something I want to do while I'm here because it's maintenance. Knock sensors and a new harness. So the knock sensors are about 20 bucks each, and this harness is about 20 bucks, which kind of adds up pretty quick. It's like 60, 70 bucks for the whole thing, but it's not too bad of a deal. And then you need this socket, and that's part number 13250, and that slips over this so you can pull it out, because naturally, last time I was in here when I tried to do this sending unit, I couldn't actually get to it because all the deep wells have a ring that stops like right there, so you can't get around it, and it's seated underneath the valley pan comes up to about here, right next to it, so you can't actually get a wrench around there. So you really need this socket to be able to pull it out. So without further ado, this isn't a how-to video. I'm just going to kind of give you project updates as I'm going throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the hood, and we're going to get started on the old mudslide here. In all honesty, this truck is holding up pretty well. I'm quite happy with it. So, here we go. Well, update, just pulled off the intake manifold, and as you can see, that cable right there was stuck in between the intake runner and the actual intake. So I probably crushed the harness, which is why my knock sensors were throwing a code. Whoops, lesson learned. So my knock sensors are probably fine. I just need to replace the harness. However, I think I'm just going to replace everything while I'm in here because I don't want to deal with this issue in the future. But it is what it is. At least I found the problem for sure. And stupid mistake. It was dark when I was putting this back together last time, and that's just what happens. So I'm going to continue trying to wrestle this thing out of the way. I don't want to take off the fuel lines because I don't want to make a mess right now, so it's kind of, you just got to work around everything. But I mean, it's free. It's just real pain in the butt. But everything else down here looks pretty good. Although I'm noticing a good amount of oil coming from my intake runners dripping down into the valley, which means my PCV valve is not doing its job because I should not be getting oil through the intake. And the only way it's going to happen is from the PCV being stupid, which you can tell a little bit right there. And that's one side, and the other side's back there. So I might need to adjust that a little bit somehow. I'm not really sure. Doesn't seem like too big a deal, but it's just kind of irritating. I don't like having that at all, but it is what it is. So I'm going to continue on here and hopefully get this thing back together pretty soon. All right, so yeah, right there, it's pretty much crushed clean right there. So that's definitely my issue. So I'm going to go ahead and continue pulling everything apart, but I just wanted to make sure before I continued that this was indeed my problem. And we found it. So next up, I think I can see the oil pressure sending unit located right there. So I think I'm going to work on that next, and then work on the valley pan and all that other fun stuff. I'm going to vacuum out in there real quick because it's kind of gross. And then continue onwards. You got the valley pan cover off, and see everything down there. It's the cam, rollers. Everything looks, well, from what I can tell, looks okay. Nothing crazy. So I got to clean up the surface to get the new seal ready to mount, vacuum all that crap up, and some stuff fell in the valley. Not a big deal though. There's a solid piece of metal between that and anything down there. But yeah, these little, oh boy, hold on. These little dudes, those are the new seals that I put on, and both ripped off when I had to pull this thing off last time, which is really irritating because they're brand new. But yeah, so these are both ripped off of the inside of each of these, and I didn't feel comfortable. Holy cow, these things are not soft rubber either. Anyway, so I didn't really feel comfortable like pulling the intake off and not replacing these. Oh, metal, that's why. Because I don't like having holes and stuff, and it's just like right there, like, I don't know, I feel like it's just shoddy workmanship. So I'm gonna go ahead and put everything back, make sure it's good to go, and then put everything back together. All right, so went ahead and put the valley pan back in, putting the intake back on now. I just plugged in the injectors. I gotta still actually bolt down the intake manifold. There's a sequence to it, and I gotta look it up real quick so I can make sure I do it right. And then it's making progress, definitely getting there, but hopefully it should take care of at least one little engine light issue of the knock sensors. Try to make sure that the cabling and everything was clear of this back area. So the idea is the knock sensor cabling runs directly under the center of the intake manifold and then up the back, which I'm pretty sure I'm good now. So here's the parts that came out. Old oil pressure sending unit, knock sensors. These things, again, are probably good, but I'd rather replace them just while I have them out, because I don't want to go back into the intake manifold. The new seals, one of the primary reasons I went into there to begin with, minus the knock sensor issue, the old harness, which I squished, and then the old thing, which got kind of torn up because it was stuck. Yep, so just got to keep going. Well, everything's buttoned backed up. Honestly, I can say, like, I'm not a huge fan of this intake, like this part, because there's a giant piece that just stretches down there. There's this whole extra thing that makes no sense to me. So I might be looking into cold air pretty soon, because literally it should just be a small tube that can just go straight to the airbox. But it works, and honestly, for a $2,000 truck, like, I don't know, I'm not really looking for that much performance out of it. So now the new oil pressure sending unit's in, I'm actually curious what the startup is going to look like, so I want to go ahead and do that real quick. Alrighty, so let's see what it looks like. It looks to be about where it should be when it's cold. That's about where it's usually at when it's cold, so that's good. We have our, yeah, it's only 103 degrees inside here right now in the engine, so I'm curious where it's going to sit when it's warm. But it does seem to be reading a little bit better than the last one did. So based on RPM, around 600-ish. So let's see what happens. I'm real curious to see how this is going to turn out. I'll go ahead and catch you guys once it's warmed up and do a little driving. Well, there she is. I've been driving around for about 20 miles now. Everything's warmed up right there, as you can see. Normal operating temp, trans, everything like that. And my oil pressure is above 40. Before, it was sitting a lot closer to in between the 20 and 40 mark, which are the two big marks. And now it's a lot closer. It's over 40, which is awesome. So I'm pretty sure what happened was, I think my pressure sending unit was on its way out, because it's been slowly creeping down since I've had the truck over the past 6 months. And then when I put the trans back in, when I was doing the rear main, I'm pretty sure I didn't realize how close it was located to the top trans bolt. And there's a really high chance that I just knocked it a couple times and it probably was just getting more and more bent out of shape. So now that's back together, I couldn't be any more happy. This is awesome. All right, so now that we're fully warmed up, that's about where it usually sits back before I had any issues. So good there. Downside is service engine lights on, and unfortunately my codes, so that's one I had before for the knock sensors not reading right. That's one for apparently one of the knock sensors isn't reading right at all. So back to the drawing board. All right, so back to this old familiar site. What I think happened is, so one of the knock sensors when I was putting it in didn't seem to like it. It had a little bit of spin to the top half, which seemed weird. I think it's a two-piece design. So that could be the issue if it's this front one. If it's the rear one, I don't know, because that one seemed normal. Or it's possible one of these pins is messed up in that connector right there when I plugged it back together. So that's what I'm checking out right now. I'll let you know what I find. I went ahead and I tested for continuity to make sure pin to pin is working, and it is with a multimeter. So I know this harness is at least good. So I'm going to go ahead and carefully plug these back in, and hopefully I won't have any more problems. Alright guys, so check it out. So I went ahead and ordered, the knock sensors I got were a brand called Felpro. They also sold the harness and everything. And I figured they'd be fine. But the issue is, here's the knock sensor, right? So, see how it's like a two-piece design? I'm trying to focus. Hang on. Alright, so it's a two-piece design, right? So this outer casing, or whatever, is attached to the bolt, but is not attached to the actual, this inner piece where the nut is attached at. So, my issue right now is trying to remove this, is that it's spinning and not actually spinning the bolt on the bottom. It's just spinning the entire thing on the inside. I finally got it out just because of sheer persistence. It eventually was able to catch and pull out. So, I am not going to use these. Even though these are quote-unquote new, I do not trust this at all. My code was simply for not reading knock sensors, which was the harness. So I'm going to put the old ones back in for now. Hopefully this doesn't bite me in the butt. But, like, the old ones I know are AC Delco, they're OEM. This is ridiculous. Usually I'm pretty good about, you know, I don't have any problems with parts like this, but like I'm just not going to chance trying to put this thing back in and then never get it out again. So this is my original one. A little worse for wear. Nothing too crazy though. It's just dirty up here from me trying to grab it with dirty fingers. But like, yep, we're going to put this guy back in. Same with the one in the front because I just don't trust it. The rear one was the one having problems. I can't say for sure if that plug was not plugged in right or if it's the actual sensor itself. So again, I'm not chancing it. I'm going to go ahead and put the old ones back in. The new harness, because that harness does have continuity and everything, so that's good. And then we'll see what happens from there. Alrighty, so I finally just got this thing out. You would not believe. So I dripped resin epoxy that I used for the fiberglass repair on my boat. Dripped it down around this edge while it was in the motor, which was kind of sketchy. And that alone was enough to get it to work. Focus all over the place. So you gotta let it dry, and then it was able to stick the edge enough so I could get it out. That was kind of sketch, but that's what I have to do. So I'm putting the old one back in. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, I'm accepting that at this point, but I think my odds are honestly way better with the original ones than I am with these. They look in pretty good shape. They're not rusted or like beat up or anything, so let's go ahead and send it and see what happens. Well, good news. So I just got back from taking it for a test drive again, and I did get an engine light, but it's for the rear cats not being there, which is great. After a pretty good amount of test driving, I would say, I think we're good, honestly. So, lesson learned here, I looked up the brand. It's Felpro is what I ordered from for the sensors. Whoops. So that was my bad. They're like $13 knock sensors, and the AC Delco ones are like $40 each. So you can tell there's kind of a bit of a price discrepancy there. So that's my issue. I went ahead and put the stock ones back in for now. And everything seems to be working just fine. I was tightening up my steering box while I'm at it because it's been pretty sloppy, and that helped a lot too. If you have sloppy suspension or sloppy steering and all your ball joints and tie rods are good, probably a good idea to check that out. I just did. I went the wrong way first and it got a lot worse, and then the right way and it got a lot better. So there's other videos out on that. I'm not really pro or anything, so I'm not trying to make a video on how to tighten the steering box. Anyway, guys, that's kind of the truck update for now. Let me know what you guys want to see in it. As you can see, it's looking pretty good here. I'm definitely a fan of the gray paint job now that it's finished and everything. I think it actually is coming together to be a pretty good looking truck for $2,000 plus about maybe about $1,000 in everything I put into it so far, so $3,000 total. Like, I'm a pretty fan of this thing. It's awesome. So let me know if you all want to see anything on it. I appreciate it.